You keep choosing people who hurt you, and every time it happens you tell yourself, maybe I'm just broken, maybe I'm too much, maybe I don't deserve better. But here's the truth no one's told you yet. You're not broken. You were trained to confuse pain with passion, trained to believe that love requires suffering. And that training? It didn't start with your last relationship. It started long before you even knew what love was supposed to feel like. If this feels like I'm speaking directly to your soul, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments. What's the hardest pattern you're trying to break right now? I read every single comment, and your truth might be the mirror someone else desperately needs today. Let's go deeper. Because this isn't about blaming anyone, it's about understanding why your nervous system lights up for chaos and shuts down for peace. Why you feel more alive in the storm than in the calm. Why I love you without drama feel empty. John Bowlby, the psychologist who studied attachment, discovered something devastating and liberating at the same time. We don't just learn what love is, we learn how love feels. And if love felt like inconsistency, if it felt like having to earn attention, if it felt like walking on eggshells just to avoid abandonment, then that became your blueprint. That became your normal. So now when someone shows up steady, available, emotionally safe, your body doesn't recognize it. Your mind labels it boring. Your heart says, this can't be real love. It doesn't hurt enough. And that's the cruelest part. You were taught that love is supposed to ache, that it's supposed to require you to shrink, beg, prove yourself, tolerate disrespect, accept breadcrumbs. You were taught that if it's easy, it's not valuable. If it's peaceful, it's not passionate. And worst of all, you were taught that being chosen is more important than choosing yourself. So let me say this slowly, because I need you to feel it in your bones. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not unlovable. You are someone who learned to survive by adapting to emotional abuse and calling it love. And that adaptation, it kept you alive back then. But now, it's keeping you stuck. Because here's what happens. When you grow up in an environment where love is conditional, where attention is unpredictable, where safety depends on reading someone else's mood and making yourself smaller to avoid rejection, you develop an emotional reflex. A reflex that says, if I just try harder, if I just give more, if I just become what they need, then I'll finally be enough. And that reflex doesn't go away when you leave that environment. It follows you into friendships, into romantic relationships, into every connection where someone shows up inconsistent, hot and cold, emotionally unavoidant. And suddenly, your entire nervous system wakes up and says, this is what love feels like. But it's not love. It's familiarity. It's the repetition of an old wound trying to heal itself by recreating the same conditions that caused it in the first place. Psychologists call this repetition compulsion. You call it bad luck with people. But it's neither. It's your subconscious trying to rewrite an ending that hurt you by choosing people who will hurt you the same way, hoping this time it'll be different. And the most heartbreaking part? The people who can actually love you well, the ones who show up consistent, who don't play games, who don't make you chase, who see you and stay, they feel wrong. They feel too safe, too available. And your mind whispers, if they want me this much, something must be wrong with them. So you pull away. You sabotage, you create distance, because deep down you don't believe you deserve to be chosen without having to fight for it. Let me tell you something. Carl Rogers, one of the greatest humanistic psychologists, understood deeply. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick, and that includes the environment inside your own mind. If you keep choosing people who make you feel the way you felt as a child, unseen, not enough, conditionally valued, you will never break the cycle. Because you're not choosing love, you're choosing the familiar, and the familiar feels like home even when home was a place you had to survive, not a place you could rest. So here's the reframe, the one that might save you. You were never broken. You were brilliant. You adapted. You learned how to read a room, how to make yourself small, how to earn affection in an environment where it should have been freely given. You survived emotional neglect, inconsistency, maybe even narcissistic control by becoming hypervigilant, self-sacrificing, endlessly forgiving. That wasn't weakness. That was survival. But survival strategies don't work in healthy relationships because healthy love doesn't require you to perform. It doesn't require you to prove. It doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't abandon you when you set a boundary. It doesn't punish you for having needs. And if that sounds boring to you, that's not a sign that healthy love isn't enough. That's a sign that your nervous system is still wired for chaos. And here's where the real work begins. You have to teach your body that safety is not the same as boredom, that consistency is not the same as lack of passion, that being chosen without having to chase is not suspicious. It's what you deserved all along. You have to learn to sit with the discomfort of being loved in a way that doesn't hurt. Because at first it will feel uncomfortable, it will feel too easy, it will feel unearned, and every part of you will want to run back to what's familiar. But this is where you choose yourself. This is where you stop outsourcing your worth to people who can't see it. This is where you stop letting avoidant, emotionally unavailable, narcissistic people define your value. Because the truth is, you were never rejected because you weren't enough. You were rejected because they couldn't handle how much you were. You were abandoned not because you were too much, but because they were too little. You were hurt not because love is supposed to hurt, but because you kept offering your heart to people who didn't have the capacity to hold it. And that's on them, not you. So stop trying to fix yourself into being lovable for people who were never going to love you the way you needed. Stop shrinking to fit into relationships that require you to be less than you are. Stop confusing emotional abuse with emotional depth. Stop mistaking anxiety for attraction. Stop believing that if it doesn't hurt, it isn't real. Because real love doesn't ask you to beg. It doesn't make you feel crazy. It doesn't leave you wondering where you stand. It doesn't gaslight you into thinking your needs are too much. Real love sees you, all of you, and doesn't flinch. It doesn't require you to audition. It doesn't punish you for being human. And if you've never experienced that, I'm not surprised. Because if you were raised in emotional chaos, you were taught that love is something you earn, not something you inherently deserve. But here's the truth, you were always deserving. You were always enough. You were always worthy of being chosen without having to chase, without having to shrink, without having to silence your needs. The people who didn't see that, they weren't your people. The relationships that ended, they weren't your home. The rejection you experienced, it wasn't proof that you're broken. It was proof that you were trying to plant yourself in soil that could never help you grow. So here's what I need you to do. Stop chasing love that requires you to lose yourself. Stop waiting for emotionally unavailable people to suddenly become available. Stop hoping that if you just love them hard enough, they'll finally see your worth. Because they won't. Not because you're not worth seeing, but because they're not looking, and you deserve someone who's looking. Someone who sees you and stays, someone who doesn't make you wonder, someone who shows up consistently without you having to beg for it, someone who treats your heart like the sacred thing it is. That person exists. But you'll never find them if you keep choosing people who remind you of the love that hurt you. You'll never find them if you keep mistaking emotional abuse for emotional intensity. You'll never find them if you don't first become the person who chooses yourself. So choose yourself. Choose healing over familiarity. Choose peace over passion that burns you. Choose people who make you feel safe, even if safe feels unfamiliar. Because you're not broken. You never were. You were just taught that love is supposed to hurt. And now you get to unlearn that lie. Now you get to teach your heart what love actually feels like. And I promise you, it doesn't feel like this.